Man.
And I have another fanfiction here.
Well. Okay, what is it?
Anarachu. Kudos.
Kudos.
It's a bit shorter. But first I'll get my water bottle real quick. I will get right back.
Oh, I'm coming.
Okay, another fanfiction. Are you guys ready?
Wait, hold on. Oh, I'm done.
We are never ready, Taro.
Now.
This one is called Magolor's Worst Bath by Shadow Slumber.
Great.
Summary. Magolor is in dire need of a bath, despite how much he hates them. Meta Knight, however, is determined to make sure his boyfriend is sparkly clean, and he has a trick up his sleeve that will guarantee his success. Whew. Alright. I don't wanna take a bath. Magolor didn't like water. He disliked the feeling of his fur. What? Why isn't every fanfiction he has fur? What the fuck? Is that normal?
Isn't he a cat?
It looks
Why
like
is he
a
always?
cat, but
Why is he always a cat? What? Well, it doesn't.
actually, let me check the artwork. Magolor.
Whatever. He disliked the feeling of his fur sticking to his skin when he got out, and in addition, he despised the way his fur puffed and almost curled when he was using a dryer, or when he rubbed himself dry with a towel. It says towel here, but it should be towel, I guess. In short, he hated baths. Of course, sometimes he had no choice, but he had to either force himself or be forced to do so. Usually, he kept himself clean by grooming himself, like most feline creatures did. However, that day he had worked very hard on the project he and Meta were planning. Since they had mostly worked with engines and motors, they ended up both covered in soot and oil. He didn't want to lick that. He held onto his health after all. Nevertheless, the price to pay for not being poisoned was very high. Can't I just brush myself? He offered, attempting to use his tried and true technique, the big, cute kitty eyes. But his boyfriend remained completely unaffected by it.
No, it is inefficient against thick liquids and greasy substances, and will probably hurt you.
Obviously, the wizard was not convinced, and unfortunately, his mind would not be changed with words. The swordsman had to use another strategy. Without warning, he took and lifted Magolor in his arms, who didn't have time to react before he was held firmly. He tried to struggle, but his captor was too quick and strong to let him win that one. The kitty was placed on the bathroom's ground with a huff. His ears were pinned on his head and his golden eyes were frowning. He felt resigned, knowing he wouldn't be set free unless he was sparkly clean. He meowed a complaint, not looking forward to having to scrub all that dirt off himself, while the other was preparing the bath, the faucet pouring hot water inside of the large tub. He was staring at the stream of water, dreading the moment his partner would judge the bath full enough to trap him in for that necessary evil. When the fateful moment arrived, the Halcandran was welcomed with a knight looking at him with a soft gaze. He petted the dirty one. He had already taken a shower beforehand, so he was already clean.
Japanese Kirby Twitter account. One illustration featuring feline characters implies Magolor is also cat-like with his pointed ears. Personality.
Wow.
Personality.
Personality.
It just ends like this. Personality.
Personality. Then helped him take off his clothes. Magolor gave him another begging stare. Meta Knight took his hand and replied,
It will be fine, kitty. You will feel much better after that.
Ears still drooped. He didn't let go of his pout, huffing a sigh and letting himself be lifted and placed in the water.
Oops, the personality was an accident. It's the next part, lol.
At least it was caught. He still didn't like the feeling. However, his ears perked up when he saw the other remove his gloves and put soap on his round paws. That changed everything. If his love
Are you reading porn? Are you reading porn?
Wow, good you're finally noticing. That changed everything. If his love was to scrub him clean, then it would be far less displeasing than expected. He let out a small mew, and his fur started receiving attention, and soon enough he was almost completely limp in his hands, his weakness for physical attention surprisingly overbalancing his aversion for water. Meta was making sure to alternate gentle pets with more energetic rubbing, knowing how touch-starved his boyfriend was. He wanted to clean him the quickest, but also the least bothersome possible. He was relieved when he saw Magolor melt in his hands, unable to stop himself from thinking about how adorable he was. Him enjoying it made his job easier, simply needing to move and lift his body to reach or expose where he needed to scrub. He purposely didn't rub much of the alien's lower parts, not willing to let things escalate that far at the moment. His mask did an amazing job hiding his blushing cheeks the times the other purred or whimpered when the sensitive spot was touched. Sooner than the feline expected, the sound of water groaning into the drain extirpated him from his trance. He was then wrapped in a soft and dry towel, and he held it in place while he floated off the tub, embarrassed by how he actually enjoyed getting clean in the bath. He would never admit that aloud, and wouldn't admit even less that his boyfriend was right. He felt so much better than a few moments ago. Meta took the towel and rubbed it on Magolor to dry him, and as expected, his fur was all puffy. The wizard's sigh and displeased form made him giggle, taking a hiss from the furry one.
You did well. I'm happy you let me clean you. You needed it.
Magolor's ears flopped down again, but it was due to another feeling. The truth was, the whole time his whole body had been touched and almost needed by Meta. Another type of need had awoken inside of him. The praise his partner directed to him not helping at all. Thanks, he replied, bringing both his paws next to each other under his face. He was tired, sleepy, and needy, but he didn't want to say it out loud. It was not necessary, for the older one noticed the far calmer and more submissive attitude he displayed, figuring right away the place where he had to guide his boyfriend. They both headed to Magolor's bedroom, a room they started to share when Meta would come over and spend the night in the lore. Before they started dating, Magolor had a lot of trouble keeping it tidy, but with a clean freak visiting the place almost daily, either he cleared the major things himself, either the night helped him when he was too tired or unproductive. As a result, the worst mess to ever survive was superficial, an undone bed, books scattered here and there, perhaps some figurines misplaced. Perfection was not possible after all. Like expected, the blankets were still folded open when Magolor hopped in the bed. Meta removed his armor and his cape, placed almost everything near the nightstand, not omitting to put his mask and sword under the pillow, then slipped next to his love and noticed how the latter was. He figured both of them were tired from their day of hard work, but the warrior was used to such exercise, and he noticed how even more exhausted the magician was, and he saw him slowly blink and yawn. That was far from everything. The feline started to purr and made a small moan, still desperate for his friend's touch. He was so desperate that he would do anything to get it. Meta, he whimpered, locking his golden eyes in his pearl-white ones. Please, I need more of your touches, he begged.
What? What? I was laughing at that.
Oh, okay. He begged, blushing a bit more. Hey, I need your love.
Okay.
The bat's cheeks quickly heated, completely enamored by his lover's words. He didn't have the words to describe how adorable and attractive Magolor was, how much effect that tree had on him. He frankly wasn't in much of a mood to do the whole thing with him, but he would certainly not refuse to give his partner what he wanted. He would never get enough of seeing Magolor in pure bliss, or hearing him saying his name, or feeling him twitch and tremble as he Meta tried his best to ignore his own lower region, which was already excited from all this stimuli. He preferred to focus more on the others, using his wing claws to lift himself a bit and placing himself slightly above Magolor. He cupped his face in his paws and kissed his cheeks, his muzzle, his neck, making the kitty meow and purr happily. However, the smallest sound turned into a deeper one when Magolor felt something sharp pressing on his skin, followed by a feeling of wetness. Then the sensation of sucking. It sent shivers down his back. He tilted his head, exposing his neck, and he moaned a bit louder. The knight didn't stop there. He kept sucking and biting the mage's neck in a few more spots, one hand slowly trailing down his body, adoring hearing the more and more desperate sounds coming from his mouth. He hummed, resisting the urge to touch himself. It was Magolor's turn, after all. His would come later.
Magolor's is stronger than ever. All of Magolor's powers have been restored. Now he's ready to take on anything.
Actually, he's getting fucked right now.
So much power. All we
I
did.
never imagined such a spike in the strength of my spikes. I could use this to take over all the terror I want. Wow.
You're such a good boy, and you look so good like that.
He commented, watching as the poor Magolor blushed even harder. The knight followed it with a hand movement, which was enough for his loved slit to show up, already wet and very obviously in need of attention. Magolor meekly whined, his hips slightly moving in an attempt to get more sensations from the paw, gently rubbing his slit. His own hands went onto Meta's body, holding each of his sides and sometimes stroking, even though he knew he was too tired to give back even a fraction of the pleasure his partner was offering him.
Tell me how much you wanted.
He was asked in a soft voice. It was almost as if the knight knew he didn't need to sound authoritative for him to obey blindly, and if Magolor wasn't so aroused and submissive, he would have hated that he was right. I want it so bad. I want you to touch me, to go inside of me. I need it. He felt the paw slip inside of him, and for a few seconds he made no sound, appreciating the so-awaited sensation. His moans continued and increased in volume when the paw started moving and took care to stroke his most sensitive spots. Tiredness and desperation made the mage climax a bit earlier than he expected. He had been given so much attention it only took a few minutes of stroking and pounding before he ended up moaning Meta Knight's name, his back arched and his hips giving a few thrusts as he released himself onto his hand. He then flopped back on the mattress, a vague thought about his partner's arousal crossing his mind before it was pushed away by soft cuddles and kisses. Soon enough, he would fall into a blissful, peaceful sleep. Meta Knight was smiling, having enjoyed every second of pleasuring his kitty and watching him ride through an amazing orgasm. He sighed, not ready yet to sleep, and lay down next to him, remembering he too had a job to finish. Simply recalling what had just happened was more than enough for him to have his member up and ready to have its own attention, and remembering how cute and desperate his love sounded and looked like sufficient for his hand to ride his erection to climax. They made such a mess of themselves. The bat thought after a moment, cuddling the mage and closing his eyes, feeling sleepier each second. He smirked at the idea they would have to take another bath the next day. It was such a shame. The end.
It was funny.
So yeah, Magolor x Meta Knight. Do you support this ship?
We must go
guess.
back.
Well, I don't know. I don't think Meta Knight is a character that would make love.
What? So you're saying he has no penis like those posters in the forums? You know, in that other fanfiction?
Well, no, it's just like I think he's just very selfish.
Oh, okay.
He just wants to fight.
Well, that was a very.
He's just like Shadow the Hedgehog, you know, edgy
Okay.
character.
Oh, the edge.